Juliet. Yeah.
Apologies.
That's okay. I was like, is everybody here? Has everybody gone to Teams?
I've just seen a few people pop up on Teams, so I'm sure they'll join shortly.
No worries, that's fine. I think a few people are joining now. Hi, Debbie. Hello, hello. Hi, Pablo. I've got a few of you in the waiting room. Let's get everybody in. How is everyone? You good?
Pretty good, pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Welcome to my office.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could I just ask if you haven't already, like if your name isn't on screen, if I could ask you just to go to the little top 3 buttons in your little video screen and just rename yourself to your name so that I can, there should be a little ... in the corner of top right hand corner. I've got most of you, but some of you are coming in like John, for example, with like E047 something. So if you, obviously I know you, John, if you could just rename yourself so that I can use first names, if that's all right, that would be great. Thank you. Welcome everyone. I'm just going to give it 30 seconds or so to get everybody in. Hopefully they're not over on Teams and they're heading this direction. There we go.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, John. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you for saving my blushes and reminding me that there's no microphone on the browser version of LinkedIn. I did invest a couple of moments looking at it, so thank you for standing me down on that.
You're welcome.
The team might be in just a few minutes coming across. We've just exited the session, so there might be a bit of crossover.
No problem.
And to that point,
fine.
I'm just going to take a quick break. I'll be back in a moment.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem. Feel free to do that. I'll keep an eye on the waiting room. I'll give it another 30 seconds or so to get everybody in. And then I've got this being recorded. So if there's anyone that isn't available today, I'll pop the recording into the LinkedIn group. So speaking of the LinkedIn group, I know Anthony has sent it out on email to you, but in case you missed the email, because I'm sure your emails are popping like crazy, as most corporate people seem to have a mad inbox, I'm just going to pop it into the chat box inside Zoom. So if you haven't already requested to join the LinkedIn group, if you could just hit that link I've put in the chat box for me, request to join, and then I'll let you in after we finish training today. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Claire. Welcome, welcome. Good morning. Right, I think we've got quite a lot of people coming through now. Okay, good. Anybody want to share how you got on since the last training? Did anyone manage to do some updates to their profile or anything, or get some lead searches done or lists built? Anybody want to share?
I've had quite a good play around. I managed to get my social score up from 59 to 69, and I'm not even in sales.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Well done, Andy. That's awesome.
Wow.
I know. I'm waiting for the job offers to come in. That's what I'm doing.
Well,
prove my credibility.
In 1 week. That's impressive, Andy.
Sam, can you talk about the content in Tent, how you use that?
Yeah, sure. I use the LinkedIn Navigator content category part. I looked up personalization software and threat intelligence software to find new one of my merchants that are looking for it. So I found several leads from there. Nice. Good job, Sam. Amazing. That's awesome. Wow, and you only had 1 session. Amazing. Good. Okay, perfect. So what I'll do is, I think we've got most people here. I'll keep an eye on the waiting room. Claire, is it all right if I just co-host you, just if anybody else jumps in and I'm in the middle of training? Is that all right? If you could just admit them, that would be super helpful. Thank you. Good. Okay, so today is officially session 3. We did session 1 and 2 together, obviously when we were in London, or if you guys were on Zoom. So today's going to be very much about prospecting and outreach, and actually starting to connect with the people that you are locating on Sales Navigator. There are a few stages to this, so we're going to focus on the very first stage of that today, and we'll break it down. We'll do a bit of a task towards the end of the session so you can get practicing, and then hopefully you'll leave here today knowing like how to invite and connect with people, because I think that's the thing that a lot of people are a bit scared of doing. They're like, oh, I don't know these people, like how can I connect with them? So just a quick recap on tasks. Obviously you did have a bit of homework to do from the last sessions, which was all about just updating your profile, getting your professional headline done, putting your header image up and things like that. So if you haven't had a chance to do that bit yet, that is up in the LinkedIn group. So if you're not sure what you need to finish off from last time around,
I would recommend getting your profile sorted before you start doing the invitations, which is the focus for this session. Hopefully you had a chance to add some accounts into your lead lists and into your account list, and some leads into your lead list. So they were your kind of focuses. Before we go into this one though, does anyone have any kind of outstanding questions specifically from the stuff we did last week together? And any questions at all? You can either use the chat box or you can raise your hand if you prefer to do so. Just have a look and see if there's any. No, okay, everyone happy? Good. So obviously feel free to ask questions during this session. We're online now, so you can use the chat box to do that. I'll keep the chat box open. If it's relevant to answer at that point, I will. If it's coming up in another session, I'll let you know that as well. Okay, good. So we're going to start talking about prospecting now to fill pipelines. So for those of you in an account management role or a business development role, obviously this is about connecting with potential prospects and people to have sales conversations with. For those of you not in a sales function, this is still an important part of LinkedIn in general, just building your network and getting connected with the types of people that you need to be connected with. Now, there are 3 steps to prospecting success. We're going to focus on step 1 today. And the first step of that is actually just building your network. So no matter how many people you have in your network today, it's all about just consistently putting new people into your network that would be useful to the role that you do at MasterCard. Second step is what we call sending a second message. So the first step is the invitation process. The second step is a second message, which will be determined by whichever campaign you want to focus on. We'll be covering that in next session. And the third step is then what do I do once I've got all these people connected, which is the follow-up piece. So we're going to be focusing on step 1 today. So today is all about building your network. And why would you, let's ask the question to the group, like, why do you think it's important to build your network? Just use the chat box for me to share why you think that's important. Anybody? There we go. Yeah, broader reach, absolutely. So that would apply to broader reach of your relationships, but it will also apply to broader reach for your content as well. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely relationship building, leveraging connections. Great, Isaac. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so these are all the reasons why you want to build your network, particularly if you're in a sales function, like obviously broadening your connections, building your network, getting connected in, and absolutely, Andy, gaining contacts of contacts. That's a big one. Majority of your next kind of deals are likely to come from your extended network. So there may be people in your existing first degree network that may potentially be your next kind of where your next deal is coming from, but quite often it's going to be in that next layer down, contacts of your contacts. Yeah, Debbie, you said raising your profile, extending your network, lead generation, of course, absolutely. There's lots of reasons to build your network. So this is going to be at the end of all of these sessions that we do together, you're going to end up with a system that's going to give you a weekly, daily, and monthly habits. And one of your kind of daily habits is this whole process of building network and adding new connections. Now, you're going to get new connections naturally from people sending you inbound connection requests. That's not what we're talking about here. This is about how do I proactively put people into my network who I need to be in my network for the job that I do. Now, LinkedIn works on 6 degrees of separation. So there's you in the middle there, and then your first degree connections are the ones that you're already connected with. So whether that's 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, that's the people that you already have a first degree relationship with. LinkedIn works on the basis that everybody in the world is connected by 6 degrees of separation, or as I call it, 6 handshakes. So if you wanted to meet a famous person, whether it's, you know, a film star, or whether it's a pop star, or whether it's somebody senior in business, just think of someone that you're like, oh, I really want to meet them. They're typically within 6 handshakes of your existing network. So that's kind of how LinkedIn's kind of connection levels work. And we'll talk a bit more about why that's important and where you should be focusing on in just a second. But before we do that, I just want you to take a note of how many first degree connections you currently have today, because that's your kind of starting point, just like we did your SSI score last week. This is your starting point. So how do you know your number of connections? You're going to go to linkedin.com. You can find it on Sales Navigator too, but it's just easier to do it on normal LinkedIn. If you guys do this just now with me, go to my network. In the top right hand corner, you can do it on your phone or you can do it on the desktop version. and then you're going to look on the left-hand side and you'll see total number of connections over here on the left-hand side. So the big number, well, it might not be a big number, doesn't matter what the number is, just record it down so that you've got your total connections as of today. Now, there is a difference between your connections and your followers. So somebody can follow you on LinkedIn, but not be connected to you. So if they like your content and they are looking at your what you're posting in the newsfeed, they may choose to follow you, but not actually connect with you, which means you'd still be second or third degree connections. But so there will usually be a difference between how many connections you have and how many followers you have. The bigger the influence you get on the platform, the higher the differences between the two. So I have about, this is screenshotted from this morning. So I have 26,125 connections, but I have over 30,000 followers. So that means I've got about 5,000 people that follow me, but aren't actually connected to me. So there will be a difference between the two. Usually when someone connects with you, they automatically become a follower. Some people may choose to unfollow you, that's fine too, but just so you know the terminology difference. So has everybody got their number written down? If you want to share it in the chat box for me so I can see what kind of networks you guys have, it would be great to see. Doesn't matter what it is today, obviously we're focusing on growing that network, so that's good. Great, perfect. Thank you, everybody. So that is something that we'll be kind of tracking your network growth beyond training. So it's something that we'll be looking at in terms of like just how the speed at which you're growing your network will determine your success from a social selling perspective. For those of you under 1,000, that would be your first target. So if you're sitting at like 747 or 800 and something, like your first target would be to get to 1,000. Now, there are probably people in your network that you actually know that you aren't connected with. So you probably know more than 1,000 people in your career, etc., from university, college, growing up, friends, family, like people that you've worked with in previous roles, etc. So on this same page that you're on at the moment with my network, if you just scroll down, you'll see that their LinkedIn will recommend some people that you might know based on your LinkedIn profile. So that can be a good place to start. If you are kind of at a low number, under 1,000, just because LinkedIn will recommend people based on where you used to work. So I, for example, used to work for Diageo. Quite often there'll be people pop up that were at Diageo at the same time as me, and LinkedIn will just kind of go, oh, you might know this person because of this reason. And that could be geography related, where you used to work. There's lots of reasons that LinkedIn will put in people that you might know. So in mine, it's saying recommended pages for you, but if you scroll down, you'll see kind of people that you might know. So that can be a good place to start if you're looking to build your network. The other thing you can do is just on the left-hand side, you'll see contacts underneath connections. You can actually upload things like email lists and contact details of people that you actually know. And again, LinkedIn is quite a quick way to build your network of people based on their email addresses and things like that. So there's different things you can do, kind of speed up that process with the people you know. Today's session, however, is focused on all the people you don't know. But if you are under 1,000, that's your first target. Now, I call your first degree network your circle of influence. Now, the idea is that the more of your ideal client and your ideal persona that you have inside that first degree network, the better. Because ideally what you want to be doing is connecting and prospecting with people, ideally at the second degree level. Now, if you've only got 500 connections or 700 connections, your second degree network right now, i.e. connections of connections, is not going to be that big. But the bigger your first degree network, the more and more people are pulled into your kind of next layer out, which is the second degree. So I have, as you know, 26,125 first degree connections. Now, that's not to impress you by any means. That's just to say and help you understand that when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, you aren't just adding one person. So you guys are all connected with me now, but I have 26,125 people in my first degree network. So that means that when you added Sam Rathling to your network, over 26,000 new people were added into your second degree network. Okay. Now, do you think there might be somebody in my network that could be a good connection for you? Of those 26,000 people, do you think that, just type yes if you think there could be somebody that might be useful to you inside that network? Yeah, of course there is. There's likely to be. I work with lots of different companies and lots of different sectors. So the chances are that actually, even if it isn't a person that could become a direct customer, people that are connected. So for example, I did a 4-year social selling program with Brother, and one of their main verticals is retail, for example. So if I've got lots of people that work for Brother who work in the retail space, chances are that there are people in my network that have got people that you would want to talk to. So when you're adding people to your network or deciding whether or not to accept somebody into your network, just remember, I'm not just choosing, shall I accept this person or shall I add this person? All of the people that they're connected to are going to come one step closer to you. So if you think about who you're adding into your network, the good thing is that a lot of people in retail and in merchants are probably connected to other people in the same industry, because they've been in different roles and worked for different companies, etc. So as you build your network, you'll start to see your second degree network kind of increase. And it is a lot easier to connect with people in your second degree network than it is to connect with somebody that's got no connections in common. So wherever possible, try and add people in your second degree network, but it isn't always the case if you've got quite a small network that you'll be able to always connect at second degree. Now, how does this play out when it comes to content? So I'll just share a quick story about how I landed one of my best clients. So I've mentioned Brother already, but this is how Brother came about, right? So I was at I'm just going to annotate this now. Hang on 1 second. So where my drawing skills come into play. Just give me a second. So I was at a networking event back like 5 years ago, and I did the QR code thing on screen. So there was somebody called Matthew in the audience. He connected with me on LinkedIn. Now he had about 5,000 connections, right, on LinkedIn. So Matthew moved into my first degree connection on that day, and then his 5,000 connections moved into my second degree network. Now I didn't know at the time, but Matthew used to be the chief operating officer at Ryman Stationery. And he therefore was connected quite heavily in the office products industry. So Matthew, after I started training him, he started liking and commenting on a lot of my content. And out here in his 5,000 connections was Brother. And Brother had moved into, without me knowing, had moved into my second degree network. But because Matthew was liking and commenting on my posts, I was popping up in the newsfeed of his contacts at Brother. And a conversation happened. They needed someone to come and speak about lead generation and LinkedIn. And someone said, oh, this girl, Sam, seems to be someone we should be talking to because she's always on my newsfeed talking about LinkedIn and Sales Navigator and lead gen. So that's how the inbound opportunity to work from Brother came, because I grew my second degree network, which included people that I wanted to talk to. So that's how this operates, and how when you start posting content, you'll start to see how your second degree network will come into play. And quite often it's the people in your second degree network that will then become your, your next best client. So that's a little story just to help you kind of understand why it's important to kind of network and build your first degree network. Now, ideally, you want to be prospecting at second degree and doing outreach at second degree. So when you're building your Sales Navigator lists, try and include second degree as your kind of relationship level, if possible. If it doesn't come up with lots of results, you'll have to go second and third. But ideally, you want to start with second degree because it's just much, much easier to connect there. Now, if you don't have a lot of second degree connections, another thing to do is to connect with people that have got lots of the types of people you want to talk to in their network. So can anybody think of somebody or a kind of an industry person or an influencer that might be useful to connect with, that might be connected to a lot of retailers? Does anyone want to come up with an idea of what types of people could that be in your industry? So in the industry that you operate in, who would be connected with a lot of people in retail and payments? Anyone think of an example? Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one, Debbie. So trade association contacts. So people that are running big events for the retail sector will typically have lots of those types of people in their network. So every time that you guys are at an event or that you're looking at trade associations, be connecting to the kind of the organizers or the people that head up trade associations. 100%. That's a really good one. Who else? Anyone think of anyone? Yeah, consultants. Yeah, so people that do consulting in the retail industry, so they don't do the same thing as you, but they share the same target market as you. So think about all the other people out there that serve retailers, who out there could be a good connection for you that would have lots of those people in their network, for example. Same with e-commerce, like, you know, think about all the different people that could be connected into those industries. So they're good people to connect with as well. Who else? We'll take one more. And Debbie, you don't have to come up with the third one. Like, think about all the publications, right, that are journalists, right? So publications like Retail Week, Grocer.com, like all these different retail publications like that are out there, the editors of those magazines, the people that write in those articles, journalists, etc. So you don't necessarily have to go for journalists like in kind of the press, but like think about people that write about the retail sector. Who else is out there that's connected to lots of retailers? So I just want you to think a bit laterally about that, because, you know, it's quite useful to be connecting in with people in the industry that aren't necessarily going to be end customers for you, but are connected to all the people you want to talk to. So just think about that in terms of when you're building your networks. You can have event organisers as well, and maybe even friendly competition, or people who occupy the same space as you, because absolutely, even though you may not be tapping their network, you're tapping their second level. Yeah, exactly. So once you're connected to them, you can actually interrogate their networks using Sales Navigator. So you can actually type into Sales Navigator, show me all the connections of this person. And if they haven't kept their connections invisible, which most people haven't, because most people don't know how to do that on LinkedIn, you can literally just interrogate LinkedIn and say, show me all the connections of this person. And then you've got another list to work through. And then you can filter that as well. So it's just something to kind of think about when you're building a network, but definitely like anybody that's organizing big events for retail merchants, etc., like for sure, they'd be great connections. So the bigger your circle of influence, which is your first degree network, the easier it is to reach and target the people that you really want ultimately. Now, unfortunately, on LinkedIn, lots of people get prospecting and outreach wrong. There's lots of what I call the hunters, the cheaters, like the people that are just like connect and pitch. Like, I'm sure you guys get this a lot. You get people wanting to connect with you, and as soon as you like connect with them, like there's this horrible sales pitch coming into your inbox. And that's obviously not the way to do business on LinkedIn. It is about building relationships. If anyone has arachnophobia, look away now, because the next picture is not for you. But what I'm looking for you guys to be is to build your network and become like almost like a social selling spider. So you're building this network of people that are potentially good customers or influencers in your industry. And then it's about attracting those people towards you through the content, through your profile, through how you operate on the newsfeed as well. So that's the kind of the focus here, is not to be that kind of like, I'm going to connect with you and now I'm going to pitch you something. That just doesn't work on the platform. Now, does anyone want to have a guess? Use the chat box for me. On average, how many messages, like prospecting messages, decision makers are getting on LinkedIn a day at the moment? Either go from your own experience or like have a guess as to how many it is. Anybody want to have a guess? Debbie's guess 20, Andrew's 15. Okay, good. So the average at the moment, prospecting messages, obviously people are getting, oh, sorry, my mouse is a bit sensitive, is currently about 10 per day. So yeah, too many, right? I'm sure you get a lot, John. So 10 per day, right? That's 50 a week. That's 200 a month. So our job here is to cut through all that noise and to stand out when you're inviting people, and stand out when you're doing that follow-up message, right? So there's going to be 2 steps to this, the invite process, and then the next step, which we'll cover next week in terms of how you actually then engage them. So it is, yes, too many for sure. So here's some examples of really bad, terrible outreach. Kevin there on the left-hand side. Hi, Sam, this is us, and this is all about our business, etc., etc. Just like trying to sell before you've even said, do I want to accept this connection request? This is clearly not how to do it. The top one there is to one of my clients for like, hey, we do this, and this is our website. This is just not the way to do kind of your first outreach. So what type of things would put you off about somebody outreaching? What type of things make it a bad outreach? Again, use the chat box for me, or if you want to speak, that's fine too. What type of things do you think? Yeah, too product focused. So definitely straight in with like, this is what we do. This is what I want to talk to you about. Definitely, Sam. Yeah, getting your information wrong, right? So they have got this like generic thing that they're sending to everybody, which is completely irrelevant, completely generic, and just really not relevant to you whatsoever. So big time, yeah, for sure. So these are all the things that make outreach. Yeah, I know, right? Trying to sell to a salesperson and then saying you can't, can you find the right person? Yeah, good one. So there's lots of things that make it bad, but usually it's all about them wanting, like the person that's wanting to connect, selling before you've even said yes to connecting, not personalized. That's a big one. So like nothing relevant whatsoever in the invitation, not demonstrating any level of rapport building, and it's typically very transactional and it's not about the relationship. So yeah, these are the things that make kind of the first stage not particularly pleasant and can be quite off-putting in the LinkedIn environment. I know it frustrates a lot of people about LinkedIn. So what we're going to focus on now is the invitation process. Now, the network build side of things, your target should be about a 50% acceptance rate. You're doing pretty well if you're getting 50% of the people you invite to say yes to accepting you in your network. So when you're doing outreach and when you're inviting people, you want to be hitting about half of those people saying yes. So if you sent out 50 invitations, you'd want 25% of them, sorry, 25 of them to be saying, yes, I'll connect. So that's what you should be aiming for when you do your invites, whether you're doing them personalized or not personalized. We're going to talk about both. So 50% is the target. Now, you have got up to 200 invites a week. I'm not suggesting you use them all, but for those of you in a more business development kind of sales function, you may want to decide that you're going to max out those invitations. I typically do about 150 a week in my prospecting activities. So everything I'm teaching you guys to do, I do myself. If you're in more of an account management role and you're looking after a smaller number of accounts, you might want to be focused on maybe 5 a day, something like that, to 25 people a week. But certainly you should be aiming for a minimum of 5 a day, and just decide based on your role in your team, like how many you want to do. It is part of kind of your daily habits. This is one thing that you're just going to need to get in the habit of doing. It is better to spread it across the week, but there's nothing stopping you doing in one batch as well. So you could do your invitations in one go, or you could just say, I'm just going to spend a few minutes a day doing my invitations. But you do now have up to 200 a week. When you hit 200, LinkedIn will kind of start sending you messages saying, well, you're doing too many, but a minimum 5 a day should be kind of where you're aiming for. Now, the key to success with your invites is to do something called hyper personalization. Now, you've got a couple of options here. My recommendation is that when you're dealing with kind of much more senior level people, so people in the C-suite, board of director kind of level, I would spend quite a bit of time like thinking about how you're going to personalize your message to those people. When you're dealing with people further down in the organization, more like kind of peer-to-peer, it's okay not to have to personalize every single message that you do, but you can decide your kind of how you want to do that. And we're going to cover both in this session. So we're going to talk about how do I personalize a message to somebody and how do I just connect with them if I just want to connect. So for example, if I'm targeting a chief revenue officer or chief sales officer in a big organization, I will hyper personalize my message to that person. I'll do my homework on them. I'll look them up. I'll read things about them on their profile. I'll go through different things and then send a message. But if I'm targeting, say, a sales director or sales manager, I'll typically just hit connect and I won't send a personalized message because I want to connect with more of those types of people. So it's up to you. If you want to personalize every single one, you can. If you're only doing 5 a day, you've probably got the time to personalize each one. But I'm going to give you 20 different elements you can look at in terms of how you might personalize a message to somebody. So this is kind of what I call the show me that you know me element, right? So it's kind of the objective here. So Claire, you've asked a question. I'm going to answer this because it's relevant. So at the moment, there is evidence based on probably 300 clients in our academy, our own team, and like the agency that we operate, that sending a connection request without a message is more effective at the moment than doing a fully personalized one. And there's a reason for that. That has shifted in the last 6 to 12 months because people now expect if you're sending them a message with a connect, that you're automatically going to get a pitch message afterwards. So what I would say is, it's different for every industry, but what I would say is keep your personalized ones maybe for much more senior, and then everybody else just connect. Or just test it for a month and see which gives you the best result, because every industry is different, and you're targeting kind of risk people and, you know, fraud people and stuff like that. So I would say maybe for 2 weeks, try it without any messages whatsoever, see what percentage you get back, and then try it for a couple of weeks with a personalization. Now, it's much more time efficient, obviously, to not have to do the research and etc. But if you're hitting a 50% without sending a message, then I would do that so you can hit more numbers. But at the minute, and the reason is because people just are sick of just getting like a message and then into a pitch. So if you're getting 50%, do whatever's working for you. Just try it out and see what happens. But we'll talk about both. Because if you personalize the right way, you're going to increase it more than 50%, right? So I typically get about 60, 70% when I hyper personalize, but I don't have the time capacity to do 150 of them in my week. So I might hyper personalize 20 of them to people I really, really want to be connected with. And the rest is like, it's just more of a numbers game for me. But that's because I'm in a hyper business development function rather than being an account management function. So if I was in an account management function and I already had the account and it was more about just getting to know the people in that account, I'd probably be personalizing based on the fact that you already, you know, work with the account and things like that. So I would try different methods. So here's, if you want to go down the personalization route, there's a few things that you can pick up on someone's profile. Some of these are easy to find in Sales Navigator. So I'll run through what they are, and then we'll use Sales Navigator to go and find and identify the different points. So let's go first. So I'm going to put a document inside your LinkedIn group, which has like all of these in it, including kind of the lines you can use. So I'll be popping that in the group later on today for those of you that are in the group. So the first, my little annotation thing's still going off. Hang on 1 second. There we go. So the first thing is having mutual connections in common. So let's say you find somebody in your second degree network, you're automatically going to have some people in common. Now, if you have like 20 plus, 50 plus people in common, I would mention the fact that you've got quite a lot of connections in common. You don't have to, but like if you've got 59 connections in common, it's like, I can't believe we've not come across each other by now type thing. If you've got that many connections in common. You might actually find that you studied at the same university. So if you went to university or college, one of the things you can pull in your Sales Navigator list is their education and the school they went to. So let's say you found somebody that was in retail, that was in exactly the role you wanted to connect with, and you happen to go to the same university. That's a really good point that you could pull in. I noticed from your profile that we both studied at University of Manchester, for example. So just things like that that give you that kind of common ground. You might notice on their profile that you had similar study topics in common. Another good one is shared LinkedIn groups. So we will talk about groups, but if you're in a few different LinkedIn groups, Sales Navigator will show you the people that you share groups with. So if you're in the same, I don't know, payments group or merchants group or whatever it might be, you can mention the fact that you are also members of the same group or groups. You might notice on their profile that they do volunteer work or charity work or things outside of work, because people do mention that on their profile. You may have a similar interest in common in that regard. If there isn't anything like majorly that you can personalize, as in you don't have that much in common, you might want to talk about the length of time they've been at the role, in their role, etc. That one's less relevant. This would be more relevant for business owners. There just might be something impressive about their profile that you pick up on, so that you would only be able to see if you actually went into their profile. So there could be something that stands out to you on their profile that you could mention when you connect with them. Another good one to focus in on is their content. So in Sales Navigator, you'll see in a second, when you look at someone's profile or you look at your lead list, you can actually see the people that have been posting recently on LinkedIn. You can go look at their content before you connect with them. You might want to mention a post that you've recently seen, for example, before you connect with them. So I will usually, if I'm hyper personalizing, I'll go and look at the person's profile. I'll go through their last few posts if they're active on LinkedIn, and I'll pick something out to say, oh, I really liked your article about this, or I saw that you were at that event, or whatever, you know, pick out something so it's So it looks like you've, well, not that it looks like, so you show and demonstrate that you've done your kind of homework on them. Again, they may have lots of recommendations. It could be something you could pick up on. There just might be something different or unique. It could be their banner, it could be their headshot, it could just be something on their profile that you've just picked up on. Less relevant for you guys, branding, but that's going to be, you're going to be most of you working with retailers. But things like hobbies and interests, you know, it could be that you see they're into golf, or they're into yoga. That's one of the reasons we put your kind of personal things outside of work on your profiles. A lot of other people do the same thing. So if you see that someone's also interested in travel or something that you do, that you can mention it too. Publications, this is quite a good one. You mentioned journalists, Claire, but this is kind of linked. So the publications aspect. So before we started training, I'm just going to stop sharing. I went and did a bit of homework and found a couple of articles that were in the retail sector, but were talking about people that have been mentioned in top lists and things. So I typically get about an 80% response rate when I do this, but I'm going to share my screen with you. 1 second. So, for example, like this is a list of the top women in 10 most powerful women in British supermarkets. This one here is the 30 people most likely to be future CEOs in retail, for example. So if you go and find this is all 2023, by the way. So if you see someone in publications and then you reference the fact that you read about them in this particular publication, there's a high chance that they're actually going to connect with you when you reach out to them. So I'm sure some of these people in here might be quite useful to you guys, but this is an article done by Fujitsu on the 30 future kind of CEOs in retail likely predicted. And then you've got the people that were on the panel. And again, they would be good influencers because they're people that are involved in retail, for example. So I just literally, all I did is a Google search, found a couple of articles, had a client do this the other day. He found like the top 100 most influential CEOs in the Netherlands. He then went off, found them all on LinkedIn, connected in with them and said, oh, I read, you know, congratulations, I read that you're in the top list of blah, blah, blah. And he got an 80% acceptance rate on everyone that he connected with. So there will be publications out there and, you know, things that you can read. Anytime you read about someone in an article or a magazine or online, you can go connect with them and reference that. So again, it is personalized. It's not necessarily about their profile, but you can still personalize the connection message in that way. It's quite a good one to use. Mike, you said you've appeared to have been missed off the publication. Funny, shocking. You'll have to get into the 2024 one. Okay, good. So again, it took me 10 minutes to do that. Like I literally went onto Google, did a few searches. You know, there's lists for everything these days. LinkedIn does its own lists. Like LinkedIn did the top 23 tech startups of this year. So I'm now connecting in with all the CEOs of all the people that were featured in LinkedIn's article and congratulating them. So, and they're all accepting me. So it's just little things like that you can do that will help you to build your network in that way. Okay, a couple more. Awards and achievements. It's award season coming up, right? You'll see lots of people on the newsfeed going, oh, we were nominated for this, nominated for that. Again, you know, if you see people getting recognized, particularly in your industry, I'm sure there's lots of industry awards, like, again, you can connect in and mention that. You may have some language things in common. A change of circumstance one is usually quite a good one. And again, Sales Navigator can give you that information. So people being promoted in their roles, jobs changing, things like that. So in Sales Navigator, you can say, show me everybody that's changed jobs in the last 90 days. And then you can go connect with them and then mention the fact that, you know, you've recently made a move from here to here, for example. Any particular milestones, so they might have had a 10-year anniversary. Another good one is the fact that you share the same hometown. I had a client do this. She was from South Yorkshire. She was from Harrogate. And she was just like, people from Yorkshire love connecting with people from Yorkshire. And I said, well, go do that then. So she literally just connected with everybody that was in her ideal persona who happened to also live in that area. I think she got like a 76% acceptance rate just because they had that in common. So think about things that you could find. You might find that your hometown isn't listed as an official place on SalesNav. But again, you can run a keyword search. Like I grew up in Horsham. I could run a keyword search saying Horsham. If someone's got Horsham on their profile, then I can connect with them in that way. And the final one is a bit wishy-washy, but you share a similar length of time in the industry. So it could be, I see that we've both got over 15 years in the payments industry or over 15 years working with retailers. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of personalize your invitation to people. So here's an example of how you might do this in a kind of Sales Navigator environment. When you go to look at somebody on Sales Navigator, you can choose to view their profile. This is Anne-Marie. She's the director of sales. These are the kind of things I'll look for. So I'll look for what her job title is at the moment, and I'll look, did she get promoted? Is she kind of moved up in the organization? I'll look at things like the relationship that I have with her. So LinkedIn will tell me all the different people, or Sales Navigator will tell me all the different people that we're connected in with and how my routes in there might be. I can see her recent activity on LinkedIn. So I read that she had, their company had recently got Series B funding of 55 million. So I was like, I can use that. That's something I can do. And then I saw that she also volunteers, one for the Web Summit, which I've been to, and secondly, she fundraises for Irish Cancer Society. So I used to live in Ireland, and my mum's had cancer 3 times. So I've got some things in her profile that I could definitely like talk about or connect with her on in terms of like how I might approach her. She started in sales, she moved up to being director of sales. So there's a few different things on her profile I can pick up on. This is what I actually ended up sending her. Congrats on your career progression at this company. I saw that the company's also recently raised 55 million Series B funding. Sounds like it's going to be a few exciting years ahead. I love connecting with ambitious women in sales leadership. It'd be great to have you in my network. She connected within about 2 hours, I think. So it's just to give you kind of the things to look out for when it comes to kind of connecting on LinkedIn. I'm going to go into Sales now and show you a few easy ways to kind of see some of those points, because when you've built your lead list and you've saved your searches like you will have done in the last week, you can then start going in and filtering people on some of these points. You can't do it on all of them. Some of it's manual, but there are a few ways to see things in common. So let me just share my screen again. So hopefully you guys can see this. So this is one of my saved lead searches. I've gone into my saved searches, found one of my lists. I've got over 1,000 people sitting in this kind of search that I've got going on. But you'll see on the left-hand side, you've got a few things that you can look at. So I can see there I've got 2 people who are a past colleague. So I can slide that to on, and I can see that this person here used to work at PSD, which was a recruitment company I was in, and this person used to work at Diageo. I used to work at Diageo many, many years ago. So when I connect with those people, I can automatically see that we've got that in common. So we used to work at the same company. The next one underneath there, it says shared experiences. So I've got 403 people in my list who I have some shared experiences with. Now, this is things like groups that we're in, for example. So this one here, we've got 4 mutual connections. We've got shared groups, and it says they're also a member of Sales Leadership Forum. And I can see their recent posts on LinkedIn as well. So without going into his profile, I can start to kind of see things that we have in common. So things like shared groups, shared interest, and LinkedIn's going to share those underneath. So this one here, we've got 67 mutual connections, like we should probably be connected with that many in common. And we've got a couple of shared groups as well. Plus he's recently posted on LinkedIn. So there's things that you can see with this button here, shared experiences. If I wanted to look at education, so if you wanted to find people that were also in the same school or university as you, you've got the option there to add a school down there. So I didn't go to this college, but let's say you wanted to type in your own university or college that you went to, you can find people in your list that potentially had the same university as you. So there's different things you can do there. The other one on university, which I'll show you on LinkedIn. Let me just go to homepage. Does anyone want to share a university that they went with to me in the chat box, or just unmute yourself and give me an example one? Anybody? Not a trick question. Did anyone go to university? I didn't. That's okay. But if anyone did, just share one with me. Hello? Anybody there? Oh, is anybody? Oh, okay, someone's used the chat box. Perfect. Right. Royal Holloway. Perfect. Thanks, Andrew. I'll go with your one. So let me go Royal Holloway. There we go, Royal Holloway, University of London. Perfect. So another way you can do this is to University of Life. That was me too, Debbie. Royal Holloway, University of London. You can actually come into the university page, and you can come across to the alumni. There's another way to do it. You can do it through SalesNav, or you can do it this way as well. But I quite like it when you can see people that were there at the same time as you. So this university has 72,000 people on LinkedIn that went to this particular university according to their LinkedIn profiles. If you don't mind me asking, Andrew, what years were you there? You can either unmute or just pop it in the chat box for me. There we go, 1992 to 1995. Perfect, thank you. Whoops. 1995. So I can now find all the people that were there between those 2 years. There's 4,000 people. And then underneath here, you can actually see where they work. So there may be some accounts in there that you would be interested in talking to. But if you can't, then you can actually use this search button here. And let's say I wanted to find a chief risk officer. I don't know if there'll be any. It's quite a small number of people, but fraud, or I don't know, retail. We'll put retail in as well and see what happens. So I can do this Boolean search here, which is, remember, where you put the inverted commas around a key phrase, put the or in capital letters, and then I can run a search and see if there's anybody that was there at the same time as me. And I've got, and this would be something that's on their profile, and underneath you can start to see different people underneath here. Head of cyber risk. But again, they may not be perfect, but at least you can go, well, and then when you connect with them, you say, oh, I saw that we also went to the Royal Holloway University at the same time, blah, blah, blah. So there's different things you can do to just kind of find that personalization point. Or just lie, Debbie says, but I wouldn't recommend the lie thing because they can see your profile. Nice try though, Debbie, nice try. So there's lots of different things you can do. Oh, the years he was there. Okay, got it. Not the fact that he went there. Got it. Okay, that's fine. So there's lots of different things you can do from a personalization perspective. It's just about showing and demonstrating a bit of care, that you haven't just like sent the same generic message to like every single person that's out there. You know the type of ones that you get, but just spending a bit of time to kind of do that. Now, you don't have to do it on, as I say, you don't have to do it on every single person, but if someone like you really, really want to connect in with, and it's important to you that they accept, then I would be spending a bit more time on that. Has anyone got any comments, thoughts, feedback? You kind of get used to it once you start doing it. It can take a bit longer in the beginning. No? Okay, good. Right, then let me go back to slides. But you can see how Sales Navigator can kind of start, you can start to, you know, get them. So there's different things you can be using. I saw we're both members of the same group. I saw we both have a degree in this particular subject. But I'm going to give you that document that's got kind of all the different breakdowns of all the ways to kind of personalize. So you'll have that beyond today's training session. I'll pop it in the group later on. So you'll have this, you'll see there all the different ways that you can use that if you want to use it. So the ways to connect with people, you've got a couple of options in Sales Navigator. One of the things that LinkedIn sells its Sales Navigator product on is this thing called InMails. So we'll talk about what they are and whether or not to use them. And then you've got the option also to connect without using an InMail. Now, I did a poll on LinkedIn about InMails because I'm not a big fan of InMails personally. I can't stand them. And I did a little poll. It had about 300 votes. And I asked people to comment underneath, like what type, how they feel about InMails. And you can see the kind of comments coming through. Most of them are terrible. They disappoint me. They've not made an effort. They're just completely irrelevant, blah, blah, blah. So like any time you receive an InMail, for me, it just screams, I'm trying to sell you something. And I don't recommend that you actually use them. There is another way to connect with people without sending an InMail, which I'm going to share with you how to do that. So each of you that have got Sales Navigator, if you guys could go to one of your lead lists that you've built since last week, hopefully you've built some lead lists since last week. For those of you that missed the training, don't worry too much about this. You'll catch up on the recording, which will go in the group later on. But if you can go to your Sales Navigator, for those of you that have it, and go to lead lists and pick one of the lead lists that you've got built in there already. And then I'm going to show you on slides like how to do the other way of doing things, which is just to connect with somebody. And so here's an example of a lead list I have. It's got senior sales leaders in it. So you're going to go to leads at the top there, and then you're going to choose one of your lists that you've built. This is a list. You can see across the top here, you've got the option to look at people that have changed jobs in the last 90 days. You've got people that have posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. So I typically will filter mine to like the people that have posted recently, because I know that they're going to be more active on LinkedIn, but you don't have to, but just be aware that it's there. You've also got that shared experiences with you as well. So that kind of personalization points can come in there too. And then what you're going to do is, instead of clicking, so if you've clicked on message, that would send an in-mail. So anytime you click message, it's going to create an in-mail, which will ask you to give a subject line. And when it hits their inbox, it will say in-mail in big bold. You're not going to use the message one. What I want you to be using is this one here, which is the button that says connect. So you're going to hit the ... ellipsis over here. That's where you're going to click. And then this menu will come up, and then you want the word connect. And that's how you're going to connect with these people. Whether or not you're going to personalize or not, you're still going to use that method to connect with these people. Now, this is what it looks like. Option 1 with no message at all. All you're going to do is click send invitation. That's it. And then the invite is sent. If you're going to personalize, same thing. You're going to hit send invitation, but you're going to type a personal message inside the box before you hit send invitation. Okay, so you're going to hit the ... click connect, and then you're going to include a personal message inside here. You have 300 characters, and it will count under there. So it's just a short, snappy invitation. This is just an example one I did earlier. But that's how you're going to, in fact, I haven't spelled his name right, so get the person's name right as well. Sorry, Jonathan. I will actually didn't send that yet, so I'll make sure I update that. So this is how you'll connect with the people in your list, essentially. You can see here what happens when you actually do the connection. You can see on the right-hand side, what will happen is when you refresh your list, you'll see that these connection, it will tell you when the person has accepted your invitation. So you can see here, these are ones I did like a few days ago to sales directors. So I do about 150 a week, something like that. And you can see that LinkedIn will stamp it with the activity that you've done as soon as you refresh your list. Okay. So they don't all accept straight away. Some people don't log into their LinkedIn all the time. So, you know, normally within a week or so, I'll go back over my list. And the way to determine how many of them have accepted is to just filter the list by first degree connections a week later. So if you've got 100 people in your list and then you do all your connections, go back a week later and just filter it by first degree and second degree, because you can see here, like this one's already accepted. This one's still sitting at second, but I haven't actually invited them yet. So you can then see how many new connections you got from your invitations. That's the quickest way to get your percentage. LinkedIn doesn't give you a percentage, unfortunately, of how many people accepted. They only do on in-mails, not on actual kind of normal connects like this. So usually most people within 7 days or so will actually accept. If they haven't, you can actually go back in and withdraw any requests that you've sent, and then you have to wait 3 weeks to resend. But you should have enough in your list to be able to do that. So any questions on that before we kind of carry on?
Just a question on strategy, really, Sam, around inviting them and then going back and having a look. And it's never really occurred to me to withdraw an invite that's not been actioned. What's the upside? Is it that it disappears and then you get to go back to them in a month's time and maybe change tack, or what would you say around
exactly that? Well, a couple of things. What you don't want is 1,000 sent invitations sitting inside your LinkedIn, because that doesn't look good from a LinkedIn perspective. So withdrawing them as a kind of once a month practice. I'll show you how to actually withdraw them. I'll actually just show you where to go to do that. I will share my screen with you. I'll get it on screen first. So when you go into my network, which is where you guys were this morning, to get your number, you'll see invitations. I've got some sitting up here. It says see all three. And then you've got manage invitations and you've got received and sent. So you go into the sent items. So you can see here, I did an example yesterday. Congrats on Numa being featured in top 20 startups for 2023. It was only sent yesterday. You've got the withdraw button there on the right-hand side. So it is worth just going in and seeing how many you've got sitting there. I do obviously quite a lot of prospecting, but I do go in and withdraw about once a month, any ones that haven't been accepted. It's just good practice to do that. And then they're available again to prospect again in the future.
Is it 3 weeks, Sam, that they're available to prospect?
Yeah, so I'll just show you one here. I'll just withdraw him, and it says if you withdraw now, you won't be able to send or to this person for up to 3 weeks. So I hit withdraw, and then he's now back in my list, but I won't be, it'll just say pending. And then but it is just good practice just to withdraw them. So have a look and just check that you haven't got hundreds sitting there. Unfortunately, you can't just click a button and withdraw all. You have to manually do it. It's a bit annoying. But if you're only doing like 5 invites a day, that's 25 a week, 100 a month. You know, if you're not doing massive amounts of them, it's just a little kind of housekeeping thing just to withdraw them. Yeah. Okay, good. Right. So it's your turn now. You're going to have a little practice now. I'm going to get you to have a go. Let me go here. I'll go back to where I should be on my slides. Sorry, everybody. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go to one of your save lists. Hang on, there we go. I want you to choose one person to do a personalized message to, like have a look at their profile, find a couple of things that you can mention when you're connecting. And then I want you to do 5 invites from your list where there is no personalization message. So pick people that are like managers, directors, like not necessarily C-suite. And all you're going to do is just hit that little ... button next to them in the list and click send invitation. So I want you all to go and do 1 personalized and 5 non-personalized. Everyone clear? Everyone good? I know for some of you that weren't here last week, you might not have anything built. There you go. So Mike, you've said you've always found them in Sales Nav and then gone to LinkedIn to invite them. Okay, good. So at least you can save some time now. And so go into your list, ... on the right-hand side, click connect. And then bash out 5 invites to people that you're not going to personalize, and just find 1 person that you're actually going to personalize the message. But I'll give you 5 minutes to do that. So you've got till 12:05 to do that. If you get stuck, ask me, I'm still here. If you get that done in less than 5 minutes, then go connect with some more people until 12:05. Or that somebody just joined. So if you're wondering what everyone's doing, they're doing a little task. Somebody just joined the meeting is probably wondering why we're not doing anything, but they are all doing something. They're just doing a little task for the next couple of minutes. Got 1 more minute, everyone. So just keep going until 12:05. You might get more than a few more invitations out. Remember, you can filter by active on LinkedIn. That will mean that those people are more likely to accept the connection request because they're posting. Okay, good. Did everybody manage? Just type yes if you managed to get your 5 invites out and you did your 1 personalized one. Nobody? Did anyone manage to get it done? Or do you need more time? If you need more time, let me know. We have it if you need it. That's okay, no problem, Debbie. If you don't have a list, obviously, that's fine. Holding back one that you need to think about, just send it. Okay, got it. Perfect. Yeah, and you make a good point there, Claire, about in mails, like it's a one-time like shot, right? If they decide to say not interested or delete or ignore an email, they're not even in your network. Like there is no opportunity ever again to like get that person to connect with you. So the difference with doing it this way without an in-mail is that when you send connect, if they accept you into their network, even if they don't respond to the next message, which we're going to cover next week, they're now in your network and they're going to show up in your newsfeed and vice versa. So there is that opportunity to kind of nurture that relationship through content, through visibility, credibility, all the things that we talked about, versus an in-mail. As soon as they say no, like then they're never going to be in your world. So this way, at least if half of the people that connect with you, even if they don't respond to the initial outreach, they're at least going to see you in the newsfeed and, you know, at some point in the future may interact. So good. it's not difficult to do this, right? It's just one of those habits you just need to get used to, because it's not necessarily something you've been doing on a regular basis. But if you just went, I'm going to do a minimum 5 a day, it literally took you 5 minutes to do that. So let's say you personalize like 1 every day and you did 5 every day that were just non-personalized, like that every single week is 100 new invites every single week every single month into your network. There will be some days when all you can do is just 5. There'll be some days when you're too busy to even do any, but the main focus is doing at least 25 in a week so that you're consistently building your network. Yeah, exactly. And you can, I'm getting some direct messages. So yeah, and you can connect with them again in the future. If you don't send the email option, you go for connect, withdraw, it will allow you to connect again. No, it doesn't release a new invite to send to someone else. It will still count as one of your invites, but you can connect with them again in the future. Is anybody already doing this like on a consistent basis? I know some of the team might already be doing this, like connecting on a daily basis. Is anybody doing that at the minute? Sam, do you want to just share what you're doing?
Yeah, I have a list for different personas, and I like basically connect with the people that I want to reach out to. Sometimes I do it the other way around. Sometimes I'll send the email first after they've seen that email, or maybe it's been a week, then I'll connect on LinkedIn. And then sometimes I do it the other way around, just depends.
Okay, perfect. And roughly what kind of numbers are you doing in your kind of daily or weekly basis?
It depends. Some weeks is more intense, so I might do like 30 a day, 40 a day connections, and then other weeks I like do it on a slower pace.
Yeah. I think the thing is with this is just finding what's right for you based on your role and what your targets are and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys are in a more kind of business development sales function, like I'd be going for bigger numbers. If you're more of an account manager and you're being a bit more strategic about who you're picking, like it would be lower numbers. And I know we've got a mixture of different roles on the line. So just set yourself a kind of minimum expectation kind of target for yourself and say, right, I'm going to do minimum of that a week. And whether you do it, you can do it in one go, or you can do it once a day. It's entirely up to you how you manage it. But the point here is that this is just something you need to be doing to get social selling embedded into your kind of habits. Because all these new connections are like you're hand picking them, right? You're choosing them based on the personas of the people you need to be connected to. So you know that anybody that says yes is immediately going to be someone that is, useful to you in your role. When you're just relying on inbound ones coming in, like that could be completely random, whereas this is you being very proactive about who you're putting into your network. Okay, good. Any other questions? Can we all do this? Yes? Nice. Andrew, you've said the invite you've added a personalized note to has already accepted. Love that. That's awesome. What did you do in the personalization, Andrew? Do you want to share? What did you write?
I just a little note to say, looking forward to hopefully catching up soon. Would you mind me if I added you to my network and add a note back saying delighted to add you to the network or whatever? So yeah.
That was easy, wasn't it?
Albeit the other 7 I sent without personalized notes, none of them have accepted yet.
Oh, it was like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Like again, you can test it out and see what works for you, what doesn't. Inject your personality in there. Like this is just about you just doing the work of like building your network. Like this is one of the most basic things about social selling is you've got to build your network. You're not going to create new opportunities, build new relationships unless you're doing this activity, right? So good, well done. Okay, good. Couple of other kind of low-hanging fruits on building network that I'm just going to share with you before we finish today's session. So the other ways to build your network are to connect with your followers and connect with people who viewed your profile. So these are 2 types of people that obviously have come to your profile or have followed you for a reason, but for whatever reason haven't then gone to become a first-degree connection. So what you can do with your new followers, so once you start posting content, you will pick up new followers. I know we haven't talked about content yet, but as you start getting more active on LinkedIn, you're going to pick up more followers. You can go to your LinkedIn profile, and if you're in creator mode already, switched it on, you'll see it at the top there. If not, you'll just go down to your activity and you'll see a little link for your followers. And you can see there people who most recently followed you. And you can either follow them back if you want to, if they're relevant to you, if not, and you can go look at their profiles and decide if you want to add them into your network. Now, I don't add every single new follower. I've got about 5,000 more followers than connections. I am quite picky about who I would choose. But if they have a role that I think actually that job title is quite interesting to me, I want to add them into my network. I'll go and connect with my new followers. And I'll just send a really simple message saying, oh, I noticed that you've recently started following my content. Just wanted to drop you a quick note to say thank you. I really appreciate it. Look forward to being connected with you. I'll typically get 70% of my new followers connecting with me off the back of me inviting them to connect. They've already followed you. They're already obviously looking at your content. So you're going to get new followers connecting with you. The other one that is quite a good one. Now, there's two ways to do this depending on, I know some of you have the old version of analytics. So if your analytics is sitting underneath your header image, you'll click on to profile viewers there. You can see on new profile viewers, you'll have first and second degree. So I can see all my second degree ones. If you're on the newer version of analytics, you'll find, your analytics at the top of your profile. And then again, you'll see profile viewers there. Last 90 days, we did that last session. And then you can click on there, who's viewed your profile. You can see John was on my profile this morning. We were having a chat over LinkedIn this morning. But you can see there, I can see the regional manager of sales operations at Toyota has viewed my profile this week. So although like we weren't connected, but now he is a first degree connection, but I know that he's viewed my profile probably because I sent him a connection invitation. So now I know he's looked at my profile. So that's an opportunity for me to engage. And again, your profile viewers, you can say, hey, thanks for, hi, Sarah, thanks for viewing my LinkedIn profile. After viewing yours, it'd be great to have you in my network to learn from a network with you. Look forward to being connected. So just a nice, friendly, like message. This is going to be in your, these templates are in your little document that you're going to get in your LinkedIn group. And again, with profile viewers, they've already looked at your profile. They know who you are. They may not have connected with you, especially if you're in creator mode and you're in follow only mode. Some people just don't know how to connect with someone that's on follow only. So again, just a nice little message just to thank them for viewing your profile and ask them to connect. Again, I don't do this with everyone. I do it with the people that are in job titles that I want to be connected with. But you'll get a very high acceptance rate from these people too. Good. Now, next week, we're going to go into talking about kind of what's next. So like this, obviously, you're going to do the invitation process and you're going to invite people to connect with you. Then it's about, okay, what happens next? There are 7 different types of kind of what we call prospecting campaigns. I'm going to run you through what they are before we finish up today. And then next week, we'll talk about which ones might be relevant for you in your role and things like that. And that will determine what kind of comes next after you have connected with these people. So you don't need to jump down their throat as soon as they connect with you, unless they start a conversation. You can just leave those connections and come back to them in a week or so. That's absolutely fine to do that. So there are 7 different kind of campaign types. The ones on the left-hand side are kind of more sales focused. So like if you're looking after key accounts, if you want to start sales conversations, these are going to be some of the ones that are going to be more relevant for you at MasterCard. Maybe partners is another one for some of you in different roles. If you're in much more of a marketing focused role, you might want to be thinking about how do we put more people into our kind of ecosystem and building marketing lists and things like that. But some of you might also be focused on like putting these people into events or adding value to them in some way. So there are 7 different campaign types, and these are the different kind of outcomes that you might want to be thinking about between now and the next time we come together as to which ones of these might be relevant, because it would be there. I'm not going to go through all 7 of them because not all 7 of them are relevant for MasterCard, but just think about which ones could be useful for your role. So one type of campaign is an event campaign. And I know that some of you are focused on getting people to either in-person events or webinars, online events, etc. So there is a specific message or a specific campaign once you've connected with someone to actually move them from, hey, we're connected, to actually, do you want to come to this thing that MasterCard are doing? So the outcome of that campaign is to fill your online and offline events with your kind of ideal persona. So just type yes for me if that type of campaign would be something you want to learn about next week, so I know which ones to focus on. Anyone filling events? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, good. Right, so we'll include that one next week. Okay, good. A value add is where you're moving them from we're connected to now moving them to something that they would perceive to be quite high value. So it could be a kind of demo, it could be somebody kind of getting something that would be really useful to them in their role, etc. Would anyone feel like that would be a good type of campaign to be focused on? Okay, good, perfect. Now, this one, I'm sure it will be for all of you. This is what we call a conversation campaign. So this is where your objective of the next step, which is the next message to them, is to start a sales conversation. And I'm sure that one's going to be relevant for most of you. But there are ways to do that without it coming off as kind of icky and salesy, right? So we'll talk about the different kind of structures you can use when it comes to a conversation campaign. List build might be more relevant for marketing, for example, but let's say you want to move people. Thanks, Catherine. Let's say you want to move people onto, I don't know, maybe you have some kind of lead magnet or downloadable white paper, something where they have to exchange their email address in order to kind of get whatever it is. May or may not be relevant for MasterCard, but like that might be relevant for some of the people that are more in kind of marketing functions, etc. For those of you who are kind of more leaders or hiring, like there are ways to use what I'm teaching you here to actually approach potential talent and candidates for recruiting, kind of what I call passive candidates. So these are not the people out of work looking for jobs. They're people that could be in very good roles at the moment that you may want to approach. So some of the sales leadership might want to know about that. Key account one is obviously important. So this is typically where you'd combine conversation with targeting kind of multiple decision makers within key enterprise accounts. So I know that one's going to be relevant. And the last one is more about kind of partner focus. So different ways of like connecting with people that could be like strategic partners. But I think the main ones would be event, value add, conversation, and key account from what I'm hearing. So I'll focus on those next week. Not next week, the one after. Okay, so your homework for this week is to focus on, no surprise, network building. So I'm going to task you, we're not meeting again for 2 weeks, so you've got 2 weeks to do this, but I'd like you to invite at least 50 people to connect with you before the 13th of October. So that's 5 people a day over the next 10 working days. My recommendation is do it first thing, kind of get it out of the way and diarize it. Just say like, do my connections. And always make sure you've got enough people in your lead list in Sales Navigator to do it, because if you run out of people in your lead list, you'll be like, oh, I haven't prospected today, or I haven't added people on my network. So just make sure you've always got your lead list topped up, but invite 50. Now, obviously you don't have to stop at 50. Like Sam, you said I'm doing like 30 sometimes a day, etc. You've got up to 200 a week, but as an absolute minimum, 50 new people invited between now and the 13th of October. Is everybody good with that? Yes? Okay, good. I can't see all of you, so I'm getting nodding heads from the people I can see, but everybody else, hopefully, if you could just type yes for me, if you're happy to take that as your little task between now and the next 2 weeks. Okay, good, perfect. Is anyone not sure what to do? Because if you're stuck, like I don't want you to leave here and go, I don't know what I'm doing with this. For those of you that haven't been on the first session, you'll learn about how to create your lead list and things like that. So the recording will go into the LinkedIn group later today. You guys can rewatch that if you want to, or you can watch it if you haven't seen it already. That will set you up for this task. So if you haven't been in the first session that we were in together in London, then watch that first and then do this later. Okay, good. Any questions from today? And if there are no questions, I just want to get a feel for you guys around the room in terms of what you learned, what you picked up today. So if there's any questions, please unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, I would like to hear from a few people about what you got from today's session.
Sorry, just one question from me, and I think it's just that. So my team and I have a defined portfolio of customers. So we're not looking to add. We're not the pipeline we build is the pipeline of products with those customers. It's not a pipeline with new customers.
Yeah, understood.
So I'm reticent just to randomly, well, it's not randomly, but send out a huge round of emails to other companies. Historically, I've just reached out to new contacts within that company, but I do that anyway. So I'm going to think I might struggle with the 50 invites if they're going to be meaningful.
Yeah, so what I would do is, were you in the room, Debbie, when we did the training in London?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay, that's fine. So what we did is we came up with a massive list of all the different possible job titles that we might want to connect in with inside the key accounts that you're already servicing. So with yours, I would focus on those connections being inside the accounts that you already look after, but maybe in some other departments or other roles that you maybe aren't connected in with. So they're still within your key accounts, but we came up with, I think, 15 to 20 different job titles within companies that we would want to be connected with. So I'll put the photo of that, of those job titles into the LinkedIn group.
Thank you.
I think you've got the link for. I'll just post the link again in case anybody missed the beginning of the training, which is, let me just find that for you. So we'll pop that into the LinkedIn group. So it's not for you about getting new people and new accounts. For you, it's about expanding your relationships of
Building
people
the
within your
relationship.
existing. Yeah, exactly. So your 50 would be across your existing key accounts, but roles that maybe you're not connected in with. And if you are approaching people like that, I would say I would reference. So I'm already doing work with this person and this. So when you personalize with yours, it's more about, or I'm already directly working with this person. You know, I'm your representative. But you can use the kind of like I'm with MasterCard. We already do a lot of work together. I already work with this person. It would be great to connect with you as well, type thing. So you're not going at it from a business development point of view, just building more relationships in that existing account. Yeah.
That would be really relevant for my group as well, Sam, Debbie. We tried to do something really similar by targeting personas in the past. Really limited success. I want to say limited, next to none. So how we can do a better job of that would be, that would really interest me.
Okay, perfect. That's good. So when we next week, we'll be looking at like the different kind of messages that you can send in, so that you can do the normal connect if you don't want to personalize. But with people that are in existing accounts, I would be referencing the fact that you already work with, and name do you know what I mean? Like name the person that you're already working with in another role, for example. So if you have a pre-existing relationship with that account, I would reference that when you connect in with them. But we'll pop the full list of job titles into so we talked about, fraud, risk, payments, procurement, finance, like there were lots of different functions that you probably aren't connected in with in all of the accounts that you look after. So yeah. Okay, good. The link for the LinkedIn group is there for those of you that came into the session a bit later. You do need to request to join. I'll let you in once I see that you're requested. If you haven't already sorted out your profile before you go doing all those connections, I would sort your profile out before you start doing those. If you haven't done the homework yet from last week, just because it will increase chances of acceptance if you look the part when you go to approach them as well. That does have an impact on acceptance rates too. Okay, good. Anybody want to share something they picked up from today's session that they didn't know, or something that kind of anything at all that resonated with you from today?
Withdrawing invites.
Thank you,
which
John.
I'm just avidly doing.
Okay, good.
If there was a way to knock off 100 at a time,
I know it's annoying.
It's just a shame that when you withdraw them, you don't get more invite requests. But I agree that was something I didn't know that you could do. So thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks, Catherine.
And is it really 200 invites that you get a week? I was sure it was 100.
It was 100. What we're finding is that the message invitations without the message are allowing you up to 200. So if you don't send any personalized message with them, you can get up to 200 now per week. It was capped at 100. You're right.
So if you send a message with it, it's capped at 100.
If you did all of them with a message, you'd be about 100. But if you did them without a message, you get up to 200.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. We've got an agency where we do like this for people, and then we've got lots of clients that we do that for, and then we've got about 300 businesses that we train to do this, so we're also maxing out their invites every week. So we're kind of like finger on the pulse about numbers, but it's like 198 to 200 seems to be the kind of the number without a connection message. But if you are using a message with every single one, you'll be capped at about 100. Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to share something they picked up or something new they learned?
I think it's good to know that sending a request without a message also like works, because I think as a team what I've been doing is sending a message with majority of my requests, and then also knowing that we can withdraw it because we've sent out so many. So now we can go and withdraw it. But so keeping that variance to see what's working is something that will be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So if you have been doing a personal message with all of the ones you've done, let's say in the last month, Rana, then you would basically just for the next week or 2 weeks, just try doing it the other way around and see what the difference is between the two in terms of time and acceptance rate.
For me, it's personalizing the message. And like there was one that I was waiting to do. So taking that 5 minutes, I did it. And like, here's a great example. I've just had one come in saying, I'm not saying I'm a LinkedIn influencer, but I did once get 5 likes on a post. Let's connect and see if we can take the platform by storm. I mean, what the hell is all that about?
Like, that's just awful. They're 100% sending that to like every single person. It's just the worst. So obviously, like, that's not the way to do it. But like, if you are going to personalize, like I'm a big fan of personalizing, right? Massively. But I have seen a drop in like how many people do accept based on that, and we've seen it across the board. And I think it is just this frenzy, especially since lockdown. Like LinkedIn suddenly became the place that everybody was wanting to try and do that. And I think people just think, oh, they're sending me a message, it's not personalized, and they're just going to like try and spam me as soon as I connect with them. So just test it and see for your own markets. I still do it with chief revenue officers and chief sales officers and like CEOs. Like I still really do it for the C-suite, but I'll spend probably 5 to 10 minutes like looking at them and really kind of honing my message before I send it. But with like sales directors, sales managers, like people that are kind of lower down the food chain for me in my world, I will not personalize anymore, and I'm still getting a 50% acceptance rate. So it's a lot more time efficient. But again, just try it and test anything, like anything with LinkedIn, just try and test it and see what works for you and see what response you get back.
Let's be a bit structured around it and how you do it a little bit every day.
Sorry, go ahead, John. Is that a question or?
No, I was just saying one of the things I picked up was rather than do it in big bang, just try and make it part of your daily routine and just a little bit to you're just augmenting what you're doing to your network every day. You know, I just not just same with Claire and Andrew. I just sent out a slew, and one's come back the C-suite from post office, and you know it does happen. You know, so I don't know if there's any skeptics amongst us, but you know it does happen.
Yeah, I think it's just that, you know, a few minutes a day, it's just remembering to do it, right? So I put it in my diary. I have a little appointment with myself, put like my 15 minutes aside every day to like send out my connection messages. And it's just one of those habits. And it does take a while to get into the habit of doing it. But again, as you say, like you start to see them come in, you're like, oh, that person accepted, that person accepted. And before you know it, you're like, oh, you've got all these great new contacts in your network that you would never have had if you didn't do that work. So yeah. Good. We are on the half hour. So thank you, everyone. We're next together on the 13th of October, I believe. I don't think there's a session next week. So next session we'll be focusing on like what's next. So we've got these new connections. What do I now send them? How can I cut through all that noise? We'll be talking about the different campaigns, and we'll also be talking about different methods to stand out from the crowd, including something that John learned about this morning, which was voice notes. And how you can use different methods to actually like stand out in somebody's inbox. So we'll be talking about that next week, and we'll be also be looking at account mapping and the Relationship Explorer tool inside, which will be very, very useful for all of you guys who are looking after like key accounts, to be able to see all of the different people in different departments across all of the accounts that you look after. So that will be next week as well. Not next week, 13th of October. So please feel free to use the LinkedIn group. If you have questions about anything related to LinkedIn, use the LinkedIn group, tag me in the post. You just put an @ in front of my name to tag me, and it will notify me that you've asked a question. Feel free to share any wins or successes that you get between now and the next couple of weeks. in that group as well. Just be as interactive as possible in that LinkedIn group. That will help your SSI score as well, by the way, everybody, because interacting in a group is also helpful to your SSI score. Keep an eye on your SSI score. Again, share any wins on that, and feel free to ask any questions and get help in there. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the 13th of October. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah.